To all my fans out there, I do this for you. This is not a figure I wanted for my own collection, but I just couldn't leave you all without a video on this thing. So Merry Christmas Eve and Happy Holidays. And I guess this is the first time a Which is the Best is getting upgraded to a What's the Best. It's Haslab Deathsaurus. But first, your likes! Please give. And if you enjoyed this video by the end and you aren't subscribed already, please consider it. Now, I want to get out in front of this whole video and say that I think this figure is 100% worth it. It is a great figure, giving you everything that you pay for and living up to the identity of a premium crowdfunded figure. Hell, I honestly think that they might be being even a little bit generous with what's included in the package for $200. However, for me, this does not spark joy. And to be fair, it was never going to. The Transformers animes just aren't my thing. They're too big into power-ups and super attacks. I know with the Headmasters that they were trying to come up with an explanation as to why would you do the head-swapping gimmick from the toys, and good question. You wouldn't. But they came up with a power-up for doing it. That's not my only reason for not liking the Transformers animes, but I'd have to do a full review of those shows to explain it all at the end, and I don't wanna. Needless to say that while looking at this thing, though they've done some good chugification that does capture my attention a bit, it just reminds me of a corner of the franchise I'm happier off not remembering. For reasons not the least of which being that I used to be a giant weeb, and when I found out there were Japan-exclusive Transformers series, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Get out of the way, regular G1, Japan has come! Also, I thought Miko was the coolest thing ever the first time I tried to watch Prime. I am shamed. I have since realized that Japan can produce things that I don't like, but ultimately with me, this thing is on unfair footing, which makes it all the more impressive that just how good it is shines right on through, even if it doesn't make me love it. First things first, this guy is really big. He's just a hair shorter than Siege Skyfire, pretty much being the only other figure to ever fully live up to the Commander moniker, without actually being a Commander. So at the very least, you are getting something big for your money, but it's also just premium as hell. The plastic on this thing feels pretty glorious. The shins are especially good, having similar hand candy vibes to the Siege Optimus. And would you look at that, they do still have the ability to chrome things. Where are my chromed transmetals, Hasbro? This is the one part where it feels like they cheaped out though, because for some reason these are just friction pegged on, and it's a really weak connection. So these won't fall off on their own, but they will pop off anytime you try to handle them. And overall, they are just using an awesome mixture of paints and plastics to deco this guy. I love how they did the wings with what feels like hard rubber inserts, and all the other colors are rich and clean. The weird thing is that while the plastics feel amazing, are sculpted great, and look pleasing, there is something about them that gives off a chug vibe. This is a huge figure with masterpiece quality and detail, but it still doesn't look like it belongs with your masterpieces or third party. Instead, it fits your regular chug figures, even if it's dwarfing them weirdly. He's also very clean from all directions. I mean, he better be for that price, but the worst thing about any angle of this guy is the bird feet hanging off the forearms. And hilariously, I think a huge positive of this figure is an area they spent the least amount of money and effort on. As this dude is a PerspectiveEnd patented minion cannon, he can fire his children out from his chest. The sad thing about this awesome gimmick is that on most figures like this, that aspect gets stuck, especially if they can hold two figures at once, and this guy sure holds two. There's always some gimmick to try and make them come out, but it never works and it almost always breaks. Here, they just didn't bother, and stuck a hidden hole in his back that you shove your finger in. And this works perfectly every single time, and it prevents it from getting jammed. Who knew the answer to this problem was to just not give a fuck? With the red chest piece, he looks pretty lame, and with no chest piece, it's even worse. But it is very satisfying to shove those parts in. OCD Man is very happy. And I'll be honest, I think this thing in robot mode looks way better than the Planet X version, who is just completely confused. That thing just did not commit to who it wanted to be, and wound up being a bad mixture of both IDW and the G1 designs. So this feels a lot more pure, and I'd say it even looks cooler for it. Though part of that may just be the chug stylization. However, on a robot mode front, I'd still say that the MMC figure destroys this. That thing is a cooler version of the character who has been handled spectacularly. The head is interesting. I absolutely loathe the white visor. It looks like it's made out of similar plastic to the ape face, so it's the one cheap looking part on this whole figure. But it's not that painful a drag on it. This whole figure is doing a lot of alchemy, because this looks so super robot, but at the same time so chug. As a result, once again, I like this design more than I do the way it looks in the actual show. Not enough to save it, but more. Once again, this obviously destroys the Planet X version, since that thing had no idea what it wanted. And again, the MMC puts it to shame with its absolutely ballin' sculpt. It's fair to say that I fully expected to hate what I was looking at with this robot mode, and I just don't. In fact, if you go by each individual aspect, I'd say that this looks kind of awesome. It's just when it's taken as a whole that I see the guy who makes me roll my eyes shine through. And that's a me problem, that's not a you problem. Me having personal hangups is not an objective issue with this toy. Objectively, it looks badass. It just ain't my individual speed, but it's trying really hard to get close. Now let's talk about the absolute arsenal this is coming with. Not since Masterpiece 3.0 Optimus Prime have we seen this many accessories. First up, he comes with him boys, one of which is an Autobot, and I don't get why, but okay. They're both completely unique molds, and honestly, had all the Micromasters in Siege even been half this good, then maybe people wouldn't sneer at the thought of them. Both of these have pretty fun, addictive little transformations, both have no trouble standing, and both have tight joints and pleasing clearances. So what the fuck went wrong with all the others? Though, the boat just appears to be an engine in a canoe. Then he's got his throne, which is a cool idea, and it does make for a strong display, but I kind of really hate this thing. First, just because it's an ugly-ass sculpt that looks like it's either made out of dollops of hot glue, like it was vomited out piece by bees, or it was made out of bloody shit. But what really gets my goat is twofold. 1, displaying it without him in it looks really bad because of the slot for his backpack, and 2, he can't actually sit in it. In person, you can see that he's just kind of floating. When you notice it, it absolutely obliterates the illusion. It's big, it's impressive, and it would work a lot better if it reached his ass rather than just looking like it came out of it. On the back of it, you have all of his other crap stored, and Jesus, that's a lot. For starters, he's got this alternate stand piece, which I don't know why you'd use this when he already stands great on his own in both modes, and your other option is display throne rather than ugly scaffolding. Next, he's got his big, stupid, ugly gun that I hate. Yes, unrelated fingers, truly, what every firearm needs. And folding this together really makes me feel like I'm gonna break off this tab. Then he's got his sickly purple blast effects. I'm glad he has them, it's always great to get more. But if they were a little livelier in their colors, then I'd love them, because they'd look like actual blaster fire from G1. Don't leave these in the barrel of his gun, they will probably eat the paint off. Then there's the parts-forming tailpiece that works as a really bad shield. If you want a version of this guy who doesn't do that, your only option is the Planet X. The other two need the parts forming. Kind of looks like a Forerunner obelisk when just sitting there. He's got an arrow, the handle for the shield, a gigantic fuck-off painted shamshear, and a mace with a plastic chain. I am terrified of snapping this thing, and the chain is definitely way too long to be any practical use for the toy. Lastly, he's got his 2 pairs of titties. Talk about breast force. Yes, I know he's not a member of the breast force. Shut up. The lion dog is pretty good. It's got a decently complicated transformation, and it's acceptably posable. The bird, on the other hand, is less good. It's more posable than any laser beak I've ever handled, but it looks more awkward. The transformation is at least a little fun, though. And it has a gun mode. Every fiber of my being fills with an endless hatred for this gun mode. My blood boils and my vision darkens at its mere thought. A pox on whoever conceived of this sin against aesthetics and taste. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff. On the plastic alone, he's basically coming with enough to be smelted down into another figure bigger than the Commander Rodimus, probably with his trailer. And obviously this puts the other two to shame, though they both also came with a lot, including a different sword that I like a lot more, and a gun that this one didn't have. Then there's the posability, and he's pretty fantastic. Head has a strong amount of up, and it seems to have lockouts limiting his side to side to pretty natural ranges. Shoulders are for some reason hard pegged down into the body to the point where it feels like you're going to break them before they move, but eventually once you do free them, you get a smooth and sturdy slide out well past 90. Chest spikes move out of the way, allowing for forward butterfly. Disappointing elbows that only pulls slightly more than a 90, which is better than average, but for $200 it better be better. Wrist swib with opening and closing fingers that do this weird separation in the middle for 2 sets of 2 for some reason. You can also fake it ultra hard for sword wielding wrists. He has a very slight dedicated ab crunch. I hate the hip skirts. I'm sure the side ones are going to break at some point, but when it's out of the way, the legs are unimpeded forward and extra unimpeded out to the side and back. Knees only bend to 90 unless you slightly untransform them, which gives you probably 10 to 20 degrees more. And feet have a good rocker and toe down that has to be used in tandem with the heel going down. So that's for the most part pretty damn good. It would be nice if you didn't have to fake the sword wielding wrist so hard considering he comes with a sword, and more ranges on the elbows and knees would also have been nice. But he's never below the standard, and he has several specialty joints, so you can get this guy into most poses you could possibly want. I'm going to be honest, despite the parts forming, the transformation is probably the best of the Deathsauruses. The MMC's is a giant pain in the ass, and the Planet X's is a lot more fun than that, but it's also really floppy and dealing with the tail can be pretty annoying too. This one, on the other hand, feels like it was just built for convenience. There's a little door on the back of the bird's neck that helps you put the head in without risking damaging the paint or chrome, despite the fact that it is in no way needed. The head just fits easily already. The way you flip the wings around is super clever, and I love how the arms work, but unfortunately, once you get below the waist, it kind of falls apart. The way the feet store is dog shit, the way the panels on the backs of the legs store is dog shit, the amount of hold the legs have when plugged in is dog shit. The parts forming is at least a little satisfying with the way it slots and then the kneecaps clamp down around it, but it's still parts forming, so it's dog shit. I like the first half, but the finish just ain't good. And that's kind of a fair thing to say about the alt mode too. Hey there, thunder thighs, you got them egg-laying hips. I feel like I just sexually harassed a toy. This is charming. It's like if scaffolding wanted to be a chicken. This is not finished. I love his tiny little vestigial T-Rex arms. They are adorable and it makes me want to go,
I found the droids you're looking for.
And the head is great. I think for the first time making the Deathsaurus concept make a little sense. But those legs and hips and thighs and the crotch are just failing it. The feet haven't gone anywhere, so they're just sticking out of his groin. The whole thing's too wide, his digitigrade shins are too short, and the tail half is completely immobile, and sticking out at an awkward right angle. Plus, his wings are a lot more boring on this side. I wouldn't call this a catastrophe at all, and I mean the design is supposed to be very weird. I just feel like this thing was treated as far less of a priority than everything else this guy does. It's got a good head with an opening and closing mouth. It can turn and has all the up and down that you could possibly want, plus a blast effect port. The dino arms, while they can't go straight out, can rotate and bend a maximum. The legs are still as good as the arms, just without the normal biceps, though you should probably untransform the digitigrade shins because it looks a lot better with them straighter. Honestly, that benefits this mode as a whole. So the Planet X absolutely crushes this thing, looking like a far cooler creature, being more cohesive with a real tail that's posable and with far more imposing wings. But I will give this the serious edge over the MMC like this. And ultimately, I now have to reevaluate my rankings, because what this guy has is a clarity of purpose. What's strange strange about the other two is that they both suffer from the same flaw, in that the MMC has the wrong alt mode and the Planet X has the wrong robot mode. Why does the MMC have a nearly perfect IDW rendition of his robot, while the Planet X has the perfect IDW dragon? If you smash the two together, you get a flawless IDW figure, whereas this guy doesn't have that problem. He's not the version of the dude that I like, but he's at least not caught between two worlds. He looks like an excellent rendition of the G1 robot, really putting the PX to shame. And then while it's probably not a more quality death chicken mode than the MMC, but at the same time, it looks more like it's supposed to. And it is the correct mode for the guy. He isn't only 50% of who he's supposed to be, unlike the other two. While the MMC has the better posing and the better robot mode, and the PX has the much better death chicken mode. This guy has accuracy to the classic interpretation of the character, which I may not like in this instance, but that puts him 1 point higher than the MMC, and several points higher than the Planet X. He's doing a good job on the posing, better than the Planet X, and he's got a better transformation than the other two, even with the parts forming. Plus, he's got an alt mode that, while worse than the Planet X, is more appropriate than the MMC. It pains me to say it, because like I said at the start, this does not inspire joy for me, though I think the review made me appreciate it more. So I'm gonna give Haslab Deathsaurus the title of the best. And like I said throughout, even if this is a subjective 5.5 out of 10 for me personally, I do recognize it as an excellent piece that's delivering what you pay for in spades. The beast mode could use a little help, and the transformation is only like half good, but it's still delivering enough of a complete package with a lot of extra bells and whistles to make me say that I don't think it's a waste of money by any definition. I personally prefer both the other two figures in this video, but I can't say that this is bad at all. Sorry if you wanted to hear me tear into this thing, I really wish that I could, but it's a solid toy. Even if it's really expensive, it's trying to give you what you pay for, and I think it's succeeding. And that's not half what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know, you know, what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So, if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.